Hi, this is Michael Altos. We're continuing our discussion of endocrine physiology, and this is recording part 6. We're going to do a brief overview of some physiologic changes of pregnancy. In the cardiovascular system, the increased progesterone levels in pregnancy will lead to increased nitric oxide and prostacyclin, a decreased response to norepinephrine and angiotensin, and overall vasodilation. This will lead to a decrease in systemic vascular resistance, increased heart rate, increased cardiac output, and some ventricular hypertrophy. Patients will retain sodium in water to the order of about 7 to 10 liters and have an increased plasma volume. Gestational hypertension is also called pregnancy-induced hypertension. This occurs when blood pressure is greater than 139/89 in an otherwise previously healthy woman. It can continue to develop into preeclampsia, which we'll discuss momentarily. The gravid uterus can compress the inferior vena cava when a woman lies supine. This will decrease venous return and lead to hypotension and decreased cardiac output. Relaxin occurs during pregnancy, and it relaxes ligaments in the rib cage. There will be upward displacement of the diaphragm by the gravid uterus, but increased diameter of the thoracic cage. Overall, lung volumes will be increased, as will tidal volume, respiratory rate, minute ventilation, and PO2. Patient will develop a respiratory alkalosis and a relative decrease in PCO2. Also, 2,3-DPG will increase, leading to a shift of the oxygen hemoglobin curve to the right. The residual volume decreases in pregnant patients, as does the FRC. Therefore, they will desaturate more rapidly during apneic periods, even if they're fully preoxygenated. For example, the time to desaturate from 100 to 90% is 9 minutes in a well preoxygenated, healthy, non-pregnant patient. If she's pregnant, this interval decreases to 3 to 4 minutes, and if she's also morbidly obese and pregnant, the interval is merely 98 seconds. Edema of the pharyngeal mucosa is much more prevalent in pregnant patients. This leads to upper airway narrowing, and difficult airway is 8 times more likely to occur in pregnant patients. For this reason, we keep difficult airway equipment available and plan to use an endotracheal tube of 1/2 to 1 size smaller than we would use in a normal patient. Pregnant patients have an increased red cell mass, but hemoglobin and platelet concentrations will be decreased, probably due to the significant increase in intravascular volume. Pregnancy is a hypercoagulable state, so clotting factors will increase and the risk for DVT goes up. In the GI system, the lower esophageal sphincter tone decreases, leading to heartburn and GERD. And gastric emptying is impaired during pregnancy, probably mostly during labor. And gastric emptying may be normal in pregnancy before the onset of labor. Pregnant patients have an increased threshold for pain. We also see an increased effect of local anesthetics and a decreased MAC. There are now some sources that question this fact, but this has been in the textbooks for generations. Here's a chart that outlines all of the changes that we've just discussed, and perhaps a few others as well. The uterus receives about 10% of cardiac output in a pregnant patient, compared with only about 50 mils per minute, which is about 1% of cardiac output in the non-pregnant patient. Of this cardiac output, 88% of it goes to the placenta and 20% to the uterine muscle. There is no autoregulation in uterine vasculature. so it's completely blood pressure dependent. Therefore, decreased uterine blood flow can be due to hypotension, mechanical obstruction, so aortal caval compression. Again, when the woman lies supine, the gravid uterus can impair blood flow to the uterus. For this reason, we put her in left lateral uterine displacement. We put a bump under the right hip in order to shift the uterus off the vasculature. There's now some data being published that suggests that this isn't necessary, but most centers will still do it. Uterine vasoconstriction due to catecholamine stress or sympathomimetic drugs will decrease uterine blood flow and, of course, uterine contractions. This schematic over here shows uterine blood flow going through the uterine artery, most of it going to the placenta and a fraction of it going to the uterine muscle itself. On the other side of the placental membrane is the fetus. The umbilical artery in the fetus, of course, is deoxygenated. It picks up oxygen from the placental perfusion on the mother's side. And there's also some fetal shunt flow, parts of fetal circulation that go around without being oxygenated in the placenta. This figure shows a little bit more detail. On the maternal side, we see the myometrium, the uterine muscle. We see arteries that come in and maternal arterioles that spiral through the uterine muscle and to the placenta. The placenta has a maternal portion and a fetal portion, and a complex arrangement of vasculature in order to transfer oxygen and nutrients from the mother to the placenta and the fetus. This terminates in the umbilical cord, the arteries and the veins, which go to the fetus. And we can see this zoomed out in the diagram on the left. We'll stop here with this recording. Please let me know if you have any questions.